for those who don't know and aren't clued in on the app, could you just give us a rundown on, what is Public? Why is this so awesome?
Sure. So Public is the investing social network. And so we've really married the concept of social with investing. You can buy any stock for any amount of money with zero commission. When we launched in September of 19, out of that beta phase, we really rolled out and kind of pioneered, I think, the concept of real-time fractional investing. So basically, you can buy any stock for any amount of money. So even if you just have $100 to get started, you can still buy up to 100 different companies and invest sort of how you like, control your own diversification, et cetera. But I think more importantly, we've always wanted to build a kind of community vibe around the stock market that's, I think, very different than what you've seen from other communities around the internet that have sprung up around the stock market and stock trading historically, where it's a little bit more longer term focused, you're kind of more focused on owning and compounding over time versus making kind of a quick gamble. And so much like yourself, and frankly, like that's why I think when we met back in the day, it was like a meeting of the minds, because you told me I'm going to hold Tesla until until forever, right? And I was a little bit like, yeah, that's obviously how we think some of the best people in the world historically have invested, and so that's kind of the type of investing strategy that we're designing for the most. At the end of the day, Public is for everyone. That's kind of in the name. But we focused much more on just building a social layer where people can they can post out their trades. So whenever you make an investment, you can basically tell folks why in a caption. You can post that out. That turns into dialogue and threads, and people give you feedback, and you have discussions with people. You can follow other investors. So obviously, such as yourself, that are kind of expert in specific industries or themes or companies even. And I think it's just good to be able to get a fairly diversified view from many different kind of investors, get different takes from people around various aspects of investing strategies overall, as well as the stock market. So that's kind of what we built. Everybody kind of has their Public portfolio. If you go to public.com/Jannick right now, you can see mine. And so really just trying to make it a little bit more open and transparent to showcase what people are investing in and why.
One thing you had mentioned is this sort of longer term, really investing focus that Public has. And that's one thing that I love about it. Like even within the app, it doesn't say buy, it says like invest. So you're really trying to create this sort of approachable, easy to use, fun community. And I love that like focus and sort of brand ethos that you carry through everything. Like if it's a really small cap stock, you'll say, hey, this is a really small, risky micro cap stock. Like, are you sure you want to invest in it? You even have a section within the app where I can move some of my stocks into like a long-term portfolio. So it really segments in my mind, like this is a long-term investment. I'm not going to touch this. Like, I love how you're kind of guiding people towards investing in the right way. And like one story that I don't even think I told you this is my little sister just graduated law school. Shout out to Reezy. And so I said, as your present, you're not in the stock market. You don't have any savings. You're going to open up a Public account and I'm going to Venmo you $200 and you're going to put it in and you're not going to take it out. And I'm going to teach you how to invest. And then like 2 weeks later, she's texting me like, guess what? I'm on Etsy's earnings call. Like I found out through Public. And I'm like, what? Like, and now she's putting more money in and like it's over $1,000 because it grew and she put more money in and like she started snowballing for retirement and has been learning, and the app has made it so accessible. And so I don't know, that really convinced me to become a believer in the product. So I'm curious, like, how did you get that inkling and where does that come from, that brand ethos of like approachable, educational, and think long term? Like it feels like you're really like the good guy broker,
Yeah. I mean, first of all, that makes me so happy to hear stories like that, of course, because it's basically why we built the company. I think we realized pretty early on that a lot of people were just intimidated by the stock market, and it came down to a couple of different factors, but I think you can overall just attribute it to like psychological fear factor of maybe having misunderstood the stock market a little bit. Again, I think if you look at the communities that have sprung up around it, it's been, very much kind of a little aggressive, short-term focused, typically white male dominated as well, Wolf of Wall Street themes, things like that. And And that stuff can be fun for some folks, but for others, it can be a little bit intimidating and not necessarily present the most inviting kind of culture. And so we did a lot of hard work early on to just really make sure that public is a place where everybody feels welcome, regardless of their background and how much investing experience they have. And we actually differentiate a lot between the terms of accessibility versus approachability. And they're kind of two very, very similar sounding
Yeah, break that
words.
down for us.
Well, so accessibility is really just giving people access to stuff, right? And but not necessarily having sort of any guidelines, any safeguards kind of around it. And so you can have access to something without necessarily feel like you're being onboarded into it. Whereas approachability from a design perspective is really more making sure that when people come into the public community, they feel like this is for me. And, anecdotally, that's the biggest piece of feedback that we hear every day is, you can have people from very, very different backgrounds still come into the public community and feel like, okay, I see myself represented here. This is for me. I see experts, but also see just other people that are at the same stage of their sort of financial journey as I am. And that is really what makes it approachable, right? Because then it's something where we often make this anecdote that like, you don't necessarily want to go to the gym with a bunch of people that are just way more ripped than you are, right? You kind of want to go
Love that.
with folks that are like at the same level. And a personal trainer is nice, but not everybody can afford that, and that's the same that you will probably find with financial advisors in our industry. And so we found that it just really helps as far as getting people to engage. And I think that's historically where the largest drop off has been, because education around finance has not necessarily been fun. And when it's not fun, it's something that most people just drop off and churn out of kind of doing. And so we try to just take a very different approach in terms of how we can have people engage and be educated around the stock market at the same time.
And I love the one thing that you do about that is the themes. Like you have, like my little sister was actually showing me this last night on the public app. I was getting ready for this and she's like, yeah, look at this. And like all the themes that she loves. It's like, women founder companies, like, let me check out this list and start doing some DD. And you've made the investment research process fun. It's colorful. There's emojis. Like, I love how you've kind of made it accessible. And the other big thing about that is this social component with celebrities. Like for some reason for me, like I think Shaq joined the app, and you, even on your tweeting, you're like, look at this celeb, look at their portfolio. Like it's one thing to see a celeb's endorsement with a tweet, but it's another thing to know what stocks they actually own. Like this is a different level of like, I don't know. And so in some ways, I think there's a lot of powerful social network aspects to the business because of that. But even beyond that, just as like a, someone in pop culture, it's like, what stocks is Shaq buying? Like that makes it fun and accessible. And maybe I think of him as like someone I can relate to because he's a fun celebrity, but he's not an expert. So it doesn't seem that, but I don't know. And to be honest, I was kind of skeptical when you first told me about this, like people sharing their trades, their ideas, like we're going to get celebs to join. We're going to make this a social network. I'm like, do people really need this feature? Like, is this actually a thing? But it's incredible to see how you've actually really evolved around conversations. Like when I post on the app, I'll make a post, I get a ton of different engagement. Like I think I have over 100,000 followers on public too. Like I've really seen it blossom and really thoughtful discussion. And there's almost a thoughtfulness of, okay, whenever I trade, I can make a post to my feed, right? Or I can just post to my feed. Yeah. But there's a real powerful and thoughtfulness because I know it's like a financial app. I know people are going to read this. I know it's tied to my money. Like there's almost a lot more of a careful thoughtfulness when I post on public that fosters really great conversation. So I'm kind of curious about if you could tell us a little more about that social kind of conversational content aspect of the app, because that's the part that I really enjoyed the most.
Yeah, of course. I mean, there's a couple of different aspects to it, but I think most importantly is, and this is frankly why building public has been outside of everything else that has gone on, and a lot of stuff has been going on in the short 18 months that we've been live. It's been a fascinating social experiment as far as building what may actually at this point be the most verified social network in the history of social networks. And what I mean by that is normally when you join a social network, right? The data that you type in to join is really typically email, password, maybe a username, whatever, some profile picture. On public, because it's sort of a full stack integration with a brokerage. I mean, we are fully regulated broker dealer nationwide. You have to we have to verify your identity in order for you to become a customer of the brokerage, which means that in theory, anyone who's participating in any conversation in public, or not in theory, in practice as well, are fully identity verified. And that just lifts the bar dramatically in terms of people's behavior. And I think it just transforms how people act on the app. And I think that more than anything is why the quality of conversation, I think, is incredibly high. We really have not had issues with trolling or things of that nature. Because I think, when everybody's there for a legitimate reason and, there are no bots or anything like that because everybody had their identity verified, there's just this consensus that, you're here to learn, and everybody takes it. It's fun, but at the same time, everybody takes it way more seriously because everybody knows that these are real people making real investments. And so it helps navigate that balance a lot. And I think that really, more than anything, probably has been, maybe quote unquote, the secret sauce that has helped shape the community into what it is today.